As per Councilor Volunteer, we get that sound. Record.
Good evening once again, everyone, and welcome everyone back to our open session for July 17th. Just before we start, I want to make mention and congratulate all of the graduates at the schools, and especially at the high school. I had the privilege to, along with Councillor Irwin, to attend the commencement at the high school. And I'm always amazed by the support from the community to the high school. I just want to congratulate everyone there. Also to the people who put together the Bluegrass Festival on the weekend. I don't know how many attended, but it was a great event, and congratulations to Gary Walker and all of the committee for putting that together. At this time, I am looking for the minutes of the previous meeting, and that is for June 19th. Any errors, omission, business arising from that? Seeing none, we need a motion to approve the minutes. Councillor Irwin, Councillor Daigle, all in favor? Carried. Thank you. We need to go to court or revision. We're in that now, I believe. So we're looking for the rock drain, and that's appointment of members, myself, Deputy Mayor Hodgins, and the ward councillor. That's yours, I think, is it not? It's a rock drain, yes. And so, all right, whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you. We are entering the quarter of revision on the rock drain. We are also joined tonight by our drainage engineer, Josh Warner from Ardobin Engineering. In accordance with the Drainage Act, an owner of land assessed for the drainage works may appeal to the Court of Revision on any of the following grounds. Any land or road has been assessed an amount that's too high or too low. Any land or road that should have been assessed has not been assessed, or due consideration has not been given to the use being made of the land. To date, staff have received no written appeals, and the court may hear verbal appeals at their discretion, but are not required to under the Drainage Act, since no formal appeals have been received within the time limit. The proposed motion for this is that the Court of Revision confirm the assessment schedule as detailed in Ardobin Engineering's report dated May 6, 2024 for the rock drain, and a motion be made to accept the assessments.
Is there anything you'd like to add at this time?
Through the chair, I don't have anything really to add, just that I have not received any appeals either.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from the Court of Appeals? Any questions from anyone? Seeing none, we have a recommendation in front of us. Moved by Councillor Daigle, seconded by Deputy Mayor Hodgins. In favor? Carried. Thank you. Our next one is the McKinnon Van extension, Van Art number 1 and Van Art number 1 branch. An appointment of members for this is myself, Deputy Mayor Hodgins, and who's the ward councillor? Is it John? Councillor Keogh? Councillor Keogh is the other member. So go ahead once again.
Thank you, and through you, Your Worship. We are again entering the Court of Revision, this time for the McKinnon Drain Extension, Van Art Drain number 1 and Van Art Drain number 1 branch 2024. I won't repeat all the procedural matters again. However, I would again note that we have received no formal appeals, and the proposed motion for this one is that the Court of Revision confirm the assessment schedule as detailed in Ardobin Engineering Inc.'s report dated May 6, 2024 for the McKinnon Drain Extension, Van Art Drain number 1 and Van Art Drain number 1 branch 2024, and that a motion be made to accept the assessments.
Thank you. I'll ask once again, anything you'd like to add at this time?
Nothing at this time. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from the court? Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, can you come to the microphone, just because we're streaming this and we need to hear, people need to be able to hear the question.
Which way is this here drain going to flow? First of all, is it going to go through my property? I put a drain in there years ago, also 10, 15 years back, I got a big. Is it gonna go back in another big drain in my farm again?
Josh, are you gonna answer that?
Yeah, so through the chair, I'm not exactly sure which property is yours. This is the quarter revision, so really it's to do with appeal or assessment, sorry. But I can certainly meet and discuss those
Can-
particulars with you.
Maybe you can discuss with him afterwards.
Yeah, that'd
You
be
get
all
a
right.
chance, if
Yeah.
that's, it's all right, sir.
I go for that.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? Council Keo, Deputy Mayor Hodgins, any questions? No questions? We have a recommendation in front of us. Which was moved by Council Keo, seconded by Deputy Mayor Hodgins. All in favor? Carried, thank you. I need a motion at this time to move out a quarter revision and to reconvene into regular council. Moved by Councilor Daigle, seconded by Councilor Nerda, all in favor? Carried, thank you very much. And so we're gonna start with 6.1. That is McKinnon Drain Extension, Van Art Drain number 1, Van Art Drain number 1 branch, and the tender results.
Okay, thank you, your worship, and through you. This report here is for the McKinnon Drain Extension, Van Art Drain number 1 and Van Art Drain number 1 branch tender award. So this project was tendered June 11th, 2024, and the tender closed on July 3rd, 2024. We received a total of 4 bids, and the low bidder on the project was Robinson Farm Drainage Limited. So the proposed motion for this report is that council receives this report and directs staff to award the tender contract MD 06-2024 for the McKinnon Drain Extension, Van Art Drain number 1, and Van Art Drain number 1 branch to Robinson Farm Drainage Limited in the amount of $356,671.00, excluding HST.
Any questions from council? No questions on this report? We have a recommendation in front of you. Moved by Councilor Daigle, seconded by Councilor Nerda. All in favor? Carried, thank you. And the 6.2 Lockhart Drain A and D and the tender results. Jaden?
Thank you again, your worship, and through you. We have another tender award here, this one for the Lockhart Drain A and D. This project was tendered on June 21st, 2024, and it closed on July 10th, 2024. A total of 3 bids were received, and the low bidder was Robinson Farm Drainage Limited with a total price of $473,351. The motion for this report is that council receives this report and directs staff to award the tender contract MD 07-2024 for the Lockhart Drain A and D to Robinson Farm Drainage Limited in the amount of $473,351.00, excluding HST.
Any questions from council on this? No questions on this report? We have a mover for this. Deputy Mayor Hodgins, seconded by Councilor Nerda. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. 6.3, the Rawlings Drainage Works additional request for improvement.
Thank you, and through your worship. This is a fairly straightforward report here. Staff had received an additional request for improvement for the Rawlings drainage works. After this one was already going through the process. So this report is just to bring forward that second request for improvement. And the recommended motion is that council receive the notice of request for drain major improvement of the Rawlings drainage works according to section 78 1.1 of the Drainage Act.
Any questions? No? We have a recommendation in front of us. Councilor Keo, Councilor Irwin, all in favor? Carried. Next one, 6.4 is the new municipal drain, Van Duren's.
Okay, final drainage report for this evening through your worship. This is to appoint an engineer for a new municipal drain, currently called the Van Duren Drain. And this drain had previously come to council and was recommended to to go to Dietrich Engineering Limited at the request of the property owner. However, Dietrich Engineering Limited has declined the project because they don't have capacity to do it currently. The property owner has now requested that Spree Associates Limited be appointed as the engineer to the project because they have a past working relationship with that engineer. So the recommended motion is that council appoints Spree Associates Limited as engineer to this project.
Thank you, Jaden. Any questions on this? No, we have a recommendation in front of us. What's your wish? Counselor Keough, Deputy Mayor Hodgins, all in favor? Carried. At this time, we'd ask council to adjourn to sit as the Committee of Adjustment at, sorry, I don't see the 6:12. Moved by Counselor Daigle, seconded by Counselor Irwin, all in favor? Carried. Our first item, and I will ask if we have our representatives here. The applicants are here, and it's Linda and Paul Wilmsey. There's Linda there. Come on up, Linda, if you like. And it's this for application for consent B16/2024, located at 31946 Sylvan Road. And it is Linda and Paul Wilmsey owners. Good evening. Ashley.
Thank you, Chair Ropp. So the subject application is for a consent to sever a surplus farm dwelling residence from the property known municipally as 31946 Sylvan Road. The property owners have provided supplementary information to staff that confirms they own 7 farm holdings with approximately 745 acres of land. 3 of their 7 farm holdings have existing dwellings on them, demonstrating that this particular residence is surplus to the needs of their operation. The subject lands are currently designated and zoned as agricultural. The property is approximately 50 acres in size with frontage along Sylvan Road. The severed parcel is proposed to be approximately 2.47 acres in size and will retain the existing single detached dwelling, a storage shed, and a vacant barn that is to be converted to an accessory structure. There is also an existing steel grain bin that staff have originally recommended be demolished. However, the owners have indicated the grain bin is too small for modern farm practices, and they wish to retain it to convert it to an accessory structure to serve as a shaded play space for their grandchildren. The property is currently serviced by a private well and septic system. The retained parcel is proposed to be approximately 47.53 acres in size, and it's currently used for agricultural crop production and will continue to be used for that purpose. There is currently no livestock on the subject lands, and access to Sylvan Road for the retained parcel will need to be confirmed as a condition of consent. In discussion with the property owners, the lot fabric proposed for the severed lot, although not perfectly rectangular, makes the most practical sense for their farm operation, as they do not want to lose any tillable land by including it in the severed lot area, and the proposed property lines would be delineated with the existing grassed area and mature tree lines. Staff are satisfied that the criteria of the provincial policy statement, the County of Middlesex official plan, and the North Middlesex official plan are maintained with the proposed surplus farm dwelling severance for the reasons outlined in more detail in my report. The recommended conditions of approval are standard for a consent of this nature, including but not limited to that the severed and retained parcel are rezoned, that service locations are contained wholly within the severed parcel, that satisfactory access is confirmed, that agricultural structures are either converted to accessory structures or demolished to the satisfaction of the chief building official, and that a severance and development agreement is entered into. As well, a municipal drain reassessment will be required for the property. Staff are recommending that the consent be granted with the conditions outlined in my report, and I'm here if you have any questions.
Thank you, Ashley. At this time, is there anything you'd like to add to the applicant? No? Okay. There's no written submissions, and is there any comments from the public on this application? Seeing none? Questions from council? Deputy Mayor Hodgins.
Thank you, Mary Ropp. This one, again, it's like a few other ones have done. I've always been opposed to, and I know council is, I've been maybe one of the hardest one on farm severances, although I don't disagree with them, of the fact that they're not straight lines. And this one has on, I'm gonna say on probably the south side where it cuts back in and everything else. We did one, I think in the last 1 or 2 meetings where we made the straight, like asked to make it a straight, like more rectangular, not willy-nilly to wherever to protect the farmland. The one we did previous, I know we went, we put the lot line through workland because it didn't really matter. It's an invisible line anyway, but it keeps the property rectangular. The other one, number one, I really would have liked to seen it right angle to the road, to Sylvan Road, which is the entrance. And I realize there's trees there. Looking at this too, and I have had my conversations with Ashley here on this one. If you were to make it a straight line, I'm sure it would be over 2.5 acres if you were to bring that straight out. I asked Ashley, and this is again, some of the ones to be consistent was the word I'm trying to come up with here, of some of the ones we did of moving the line at the back in front of between the two barns. And if it was rectangular and straight, it would make a better severance. We have left barns on the retained piece of property in the past. And that's, again, I guess that's my thoughts on it. If the lines aren't straight, I am going to say no to this because that's one of the things I would really like to see is straight lines in a rectangular package here. So I don't know whether I can persuade any of the council, but if not, if there's a possibility and talking to the applicant, whether we could defer this until straight lines were properly proposed on this.
Thank you. Other comments, questions from council? Councilor Canellison?
Thank you, Mayor Rob. My question actually is for item number 8, and that's the severance and development agreement with the municipality. What specifically is a severance and development agreement? Because I don't see there being any development on this particular property, it's just severing off of the surplus house.
Yep, thank you. So in this particular situation, they're far less onerous than if you were in an urban area. But essentially, when you're out in the country, it's an agreement registered on title saying that there's normal farm practices in the area and what those pertain to so that the municipality doesn't receive complaints about smells and that sort of thing in the future.
And that makes perfect sense, but where does the development component come into? Is it just a catch-all phrase?
It's a catch-all phrase under the Planning Act, and essentially that's what it has to be titled for the Land Registry Office to not get stuck on it.
Okay. And just in response to Deputy Mayor's request for the straight lines, I don't have any issue with the presentation such as it is.
Okay, thank you. Other comments, questions from council on this? Councilor Keel?
Thank you, Mayor Rob. My, I guess my question would be to the deputy mayor and to the planner on this. When you reconfigured the lines, did it add much to the severance?
Through Chair Rob. So when you reconfigure the lines, being that the parcel is already at the maximum 2.47 acres, it would put it over and you would require an official plan amendment to go that route. And historically, that's not something that is supported beyond that 2.47 because that is already quite lenient in staff's opinion.
Thank you.
One comment I would make for to Deputy Mayor's comments. The farm isn't really square to the road. If I remember, if you zoom out a little farther, it's kind of got a. Yeah, like it wasn't really, the lines of the farm doesn't quite sit square. Just a comment I'm making to it. Yeah. Yeah. Any other comments? We have a recommendation in front of us. Oh, Councillor Irwin. Oh, okay. You're moving the recommendation. Okay. Is there a seconder for that? Councillor Nerda. Any other discussion on it?
Just for clarification, if we're removing the recommendation, is it the recommendation of the planner?
The recommendation of the planner. I'm sorry. Should have said it that way. Sorry. No other in favor? Opposed? 2 opposed. It's carried. It's carried. Thank you. Our next one is 7.2 is application for consent B17 2024 located at 222 Roskeen Street and it's Samuel and Joseph Lynn. It's your turn. Come on up. Evening. Ashley, when you're ready.
Thank you, Chair Ropp. So the subject application is for a consent application to sever one new residential infill lot from a property known municipally as 222 Roskeen Street in Park Hill within the urban settlement area. The property is located in a residential neighborhood with a Bell Canada utility building located on the abutting property to the east. The property is zoned residential density zone 1 and it's designated residential as well in the official plan. The severed parcel is proposed to be approximately 0.15 acres in size, and it is currently vacant. One new access to Roskeen Street and services will need to be established through conditions of consent. Comments provided by the Director of Infrastructure and Operations note that the owner will be required to develop an engineering water servicing plan detailing the proposed water servicing to the severed lot, which may require an extension of a new municipal water main. All costs associated with providing servicing are solely the owner's responsibilities or their successors, and it will be outlined and legally binding in the severance and development agreement that's registered on title of the property. The retained parcel is proposed to be approximately 0.14 acres in size, and it currently has an existing 2-story single detached dwelling on it and 4 small sheds as well. And they are proposed to remain, to my knowledge. The deck on the east of the dwelling has been demolished, and the locations of municipal services will need to be confirmed to be wholly contained within the retained parcel or relocated solely at the applicant's expense. Staff note that infilling is encouraged within settlement areas in accordance with the provincial policy statement, the Middlesex County Official Plan, and the North Middlesex Official Plan. The property has frontage on a maintained year-round road and is in an area serviced by municipal water and sanitary. The severed parcel exceeds the minimum required lot frontage, and the retained parcel meets the minimum lot frontage of the R1 zone. Additionally, both properties exceed the minimum required lot area of the zone. Comments received are outlined in my report, and no comments or concerns were presented that are not able to be addressed as conditions of approval. No formal comments were submitted by the public prior to the submission of this report, and the conditions included are relatively standard for a consent of this nature, including but not limited to that the draft reference plan prepared by the Ontario Land Surveyor is provided for review prior to being deposited, that cash in lieu of parkland is paid, that a new 911 address is assigned, that a grading and drainage plan is completed by a qualified professional, and that a severance and development agreement is entered into. Again, that will be registered on title, outlining the requirements of the current owner and future successors. So staff are of the opinion that the proposed development is appropriate and consistent with the applicable policies as outlined in more detail in my report. And we are recommending that the severance be granted with the conditions therein.
Thank you, Ashley. At this time, is there anything you'd like to add?
No,
No?
we're good.
Okay, I have to ask anybody in the public who wants to speak on this application. Seeing none. The committee, questions? Councillor Tenellison?
Thank you, Mayor Rob. Ashley, I have a question or more of an expression of concern regarding the severances that we've been doing in town here. Certainly, there's one across the road in Roskeen and there's one at Catherine Street. Lots have been severed where houses have been demolished, and they're not being maintained very well. The purchaser of these lots have allowed them to become overgrown. They're used for storage, for building products that are being there for extended periods of time. And I just don't feel that that is suitable for that community, and that the neighbors have to tolerate this form of neglect on the adjoining properties. Can we include a condition that these properties will be maintained according to municipal standards?
Yep, through Chair Ropp. So we certainly can. I know technically it would already be covered under the tidy yards bylaw, but what we could also do is include a condition in the severance and development agreement so that it's even more clearly outlined and registered on title of that property. And that's something that you would see as like a standard condition in a subdivision agreement and that sort of thing. So I wouldn't see an issue with including it there as well.
Absolutely, because the intent may be for this lot to be flipped to another developer who may not necessarily concur with the agreements that we're arranging now. So I think it should be included as a condition of severance that will be ongoing maintenance of these properties.
Perfect. Yeah, I can certainly include that in the agreement going forward.
Great, thank you.
Yep.
So you're asking for that on this agreement?
I would add that into the recommendation that be included as a condition of severance, that to be a clause, an item added into the conditions or the requirements that that the property be maintained according to municipal standards.
Okay, so it's just something to remember when we vote on this.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions, comments on this? Seeing none, we have a recommendation in front of us.
I would move the recommendation, including that the property, that there be a clause added, that the property would be subject to ongoing maintenance according to the municipal standards.
Don't get mad at me about it.
Not getting mad.
No,
just
okay, no. I got your
emphasizing
motion.
my concerns.
Yes, All right. Is there a seconder? Counselor Daigle, I think you were seconding that. Any other discussion on that? In favor? Carried. Thank you. Thanks so much. Next item is 7.3, application for consent B 18/2024, located at 204 McLeod Street. Thames Valley District School Board. Applicant is the Roman Catholic Corporation of Diocese of London in Ontario, and represented by David Sval. Is that right? Svel? Applicant here for this? No, we're not expecting him. Oh, okay, we've got the agent on Zoom. And is he there? Okay.
Good evening. Good evening. Hello, can you hear me? Hello, can you hear me?
Looks like we have,
Hi, Natalie, can you hear me?
can you hear us?
Now I can hear you all.
I
Can you
can hear
hear
the
me now?
We're
applicant,
not
but
hearing you.
no,
I don't know if you're
yeah.
muted or,
Daniele, this is Estelle, I'm the treasurer. I am contacting the office now
let's try
to
this again.
let
Can you
them
hear
know.
us?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me? Hello,
Yeah,
can you hear me?
yeah, we just need to, for comments.
Yes, Estelle, can you say something to see if it's our microphones or
Hi, can you
our
hear me?
speaker system?
I am speaking now, Carolyn. Can you hear me?
If you're speaking, Estelle, we can't hear you.
Hi, can you hear me? Hello,
Okay, let's chat.
Oh, I heard
Hello,
Estelle.
hello.
Yeah.
hi,
Okay.
can you hear me?
There.
I can hear her. Can you still hear me? This is Estelle.
Yes, yes. Now we can hear you.
Okay,
Hi.
I can hear
Okay.
Daniele. I don't know why you guys cannot. I can hear her. Can you still hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I can hear Daniele. I don't know why you guys cannot.
Okay, I think we have her now.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes, we got you now.
Awesome, perfect. So thank
Okay.
you.
All right, Ashley, I think we're ready. All right, we'll let Ashley speak first.
Okay, thank you, Chair Rob. So the subject application is to implement an access easement to legalize an existing driveway that runs across 204 McLeod Street, which is the Park Hill West Williams School property, and it's used to access an existing single detached dwelling at 153 Ann Street. The access easement is proposed to be approximately 0.05 acres in size, and the subject lands are designated as residential in the North Middlesex official plan, but they are zoned as institutional I-1 in the North Middlesex zoning bylaw. The committee may recall the Ann Street property previously coming before them as consent B2-2022 to sever the old church manse from the remainder of the church property. This access easement is to fulfill a condition of that consent from 2022, and it is for the driveway for the manse. As noted in my report, the public meeting notice originally stated that the easement was also for a telecommunication line. The applicants have since had the telecommunication line relocated, so that easement's no longer required, and the proposed easement is strictly for the existing driveway access. The reason being is that there's quite a process with the board, from my understanding, to go through to get a second approval for a telecommunication line, and it was quicker and cheaper to go this route. No concerns were noted by any of the agencies circulated or by members of the public prior to the submission of this report, and staff are of the opinion that the application conforms to the applicable policies, and the original conditions of consent B2-2022 will still remain in force and effect.
Thank you, Ashley. At this time, does the applicant have anything you'd like to add?
Yes, I would just like to first of all, thank staff for their support in this application. There has been some back and forth on it, and we sincerely appreciate your patience and work. So we have reviewed the staff report. We welcome the approval recommendation, and we have also reviewed the conditions of the application, and we are happy with them. And just to highlight some key points, this is a existing driveway, and it has long existed in this location, along with the existing institutional use at 153 Ann Street. There have not been any concerns and no anticipated impacts are expected as a result of the recognition of the existing driveway. So the proposed access easement is minor in nature and appropriate for the subject lands and several lots. So we respectfully request the council's approval. If you have any questions, I will be happy to answer them. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Any questions for her? At this time, I would ask if there's any questions on this application from the public. Seeing none, council, questions from council, Councilor Keel? Oh, okay. Is there any questions on it? No questions? All right, you're making the motion to approve the recommendation, seconded by Councilor Nerda. In favor? Carried. Thank you. Thank you. I have to at this time ask for adjournment of the Committee of Adjustment and to convene as a public meeting under the Planning Act. Councilor Irwin and Councilor Daigle, all in favor? Carried. Thank you. Our next one, 7.5, application for a minor variance, MV 11-2024, 32661 Springbank Road, and it's Jason Luther. And do we have no one here for Jason?
Apologies. So he was going to attend, but he's stuck in Kincardine at a work site right now.
It's quite a drive, so we won't wait for him. All right, so go ahead.
Thank you. So the subject application is for a minor variance that requests relief from the exterior side yard setback and the setback abutting a municipal road, which in this case is both for the setback along Springbank Road, as well as for building height to construct a detached garage. So the subject lands are located on the northwest side of the intersection of Elginfield and Springbank, and the front lot line technically abuts Elginfield Road with the exterior side lot line abutting Springbank. Surrounding uses are predominantly agricultural in nature. The subject lands are approximately 1 acre in size and contain a 1-story single detached ranch-style dwelling and a pool, and there's currently no accessory structures on the property. The detached garage is proposed to be constructed in the rear yard of the property to align with the existing setback for the single detached dwelling. The owners explored alternative locations on the property, but it's determined that due to the location of the existing septic bed, just on the screen that I'm pointing out there, as well as the existing setback of the single detached dwelling and the location of the pool, and that Elginfield is a county road, the most logical and feasible location for the garage is as proposed. Additionally, minor relief from the height of the structure is required for personal storage purposes. No concerns were noted by the circulated agencies and no comments were submitted by the public. And staff have reviewed the location of the lands, the context of the development, and the existing characteristics of the surrounding agricultural area, and are of the opinion that the proposed variance is not anticipated to negatively impact neighboring properties or road safety as outlined in greater detail in my report. Staff are therefore of the opinion that the 4 minor variance tests are met, and we are recommending that the relief be granted with the condition that the relief solely applies to the proposed detached garage as submitted on the site sketch with the application. So essentially no future accessory structures would be granted this same relief. It's on a case-by-case basis. We discuss further if needed.
Thank you, Ashley. Our applicant isn't here. Any comments from the public on this application? Seeing none, council, questions? No questions? We have a recommendation in front of us. Councilor Irwin?
I'd like to move the recommendation as presented, your worship.
Okay, thank you. Seconded by Deputy Mayor Hodgins. In favor? Carried. Thank you. The next one is application for minor variance MV 12-2024, 26259 Coldstream Road, Scott and Jennifer McKeegan. How are you, Scott? Good. All right.
Thank you. So the subject application is for a minor variance at 26259 Coldstream Road that requests relief from the maximum permitted height of the accessory building to construct a detached garage, as well as to vary the lot of record definition to address the condition of the owner's lot line adjustment application, file number B8 2024, which was conditionally approved by the committee on May 1st, 2024. So the subject lands are approximately 2.5 acres in size, and once the conditionally approved lot line adjustment is completed, the property will be approximately 3 acres in size. Surrounding uses are predominantly agricultural in nature, and the property is designated agricultural, contains hazard lands and significant woodlands in the official plan, and is zoned general agricultural in the bylaw. The owner is proposing to construct a storage shed for personal storage purposes, and they require additional height relief to store their fifth wheel trailer indoors. The property currently contains a one-story single detached dwelling, a pool, and a garden shed. And the detached garage is proposed to be constructed in the rear yard of the property. So if you just look on the screen there where my mouse is, that's where it's proposed to be constructed. It's proposing to meet the required rear and side yard setbacks, square footage, lot coverage, and location requirements. And staff note that the proposed structure will also be surrounded by woodlands and visually screened from neighboring properties. It's also behind the existing garden shed, which adds an additional layer of screening, and it'll be set back approximately 240 feet from Coldstream Road. The structure will also be approximately 330 feet from the nearest neighboring dwelling, and again, screened by woodlands all around it. Staff generally do have reservations supporting an accessory structure of this size and height. However, given the site-specific considerations of the subject lands, primarily the level of screening and the setback from the road, staff are generally supportive of the increased height. Regarding the lot of record definition, staff feel it's more appropriate to classify the subject lands as an existing lot of record opposed to an undersized agricultural parcel, as there are and historically has not been agricultural uses on the lands. No concerns were noted by circulated agencies and no comments were submitted by the public. And again, staff have reviewed the location of the lands in the context of the development as well as the surrounding area and are of the opinion that the variance is not anticipated to negatively impact neighboring properties. Staff are therefore of the opinion that the 4 minor variance tests are being met and we are recommending relief be granted. Again, with the inclusion of a condition that it solely applies to the proposed structure for this application. And additionally, should a development permit be deemed necessary by the Conservation Authority, that's required to be obtained, which I would note that would be required anyways as part of the building permit process, but I just like to include it so people are aware.
Thank you, Ashley. Anything you'd like to add at this time, Scott? Nothing at this time? I have to ask once again if there's any comment from the public on this application. Seeing none, council. Any questions? So you don't have a question? Just let me look around the room first. Any questions on this? All right, Councilor Keo. As written. All right, moved by, seconded by Councilor Nerda. All in favor? Carried.
Thank you.
Thanks, Scott. Our next one is a planning zoning bylaw amendment application ZBA 13/2024 at 2026 Bornish Drive. And the owner is John Webster and Paul Hendrick is the applicant or is the agent, sorry. Is he coming online or is he not?
He is at his son's baseball game, but available if I need him. So I think we're okay.
Priorities, I get it.
Yes.
So go ahead.
Thank you. So the purpose of the subject zoning bylaw amendment application is to implement a condition of consent B9 2024 for 2026 Bornish Drive, which was conditionally approved by the committee on May 1st, 2024 to sever a residence surplus to a farming operation. So the severed parcel is approximately 2.38 acres of land and the retained parcel is approximately 47.62 acres. Surrounding uses are predominantly agricultural in nature. So the zoning bylaw amendment proposes to rezone the severed parcel to the agricultural small holding zone and no site-specific relief is required. And it'll also rezone the farmland to a general agricultural site-specific to recognize the lot area and to prohibit any new residential dwellings on it. The provincial policy statement, official plans all require that the condition of approval of a surplus farm dwelling severance include that the remnant farmlands rezoned to prohibit residential dwellings on them. And additionally, the severed parcel will be rezoned to recognize the existing rural residential use of the property. No concerns were noted by the agencies and no public comments were received, and staff are satisfied that the zoning bylaw amendment is appropriate and it is in conformity with the applicable policies. So we are recommending that council receive my report for information and that they consider passing a bylaw in open session to approve the zoning.
All right, thank you. And so the applicant's not here, no written, so I have to ask once again, any comments from the public? Seeing none, any questions on this from council? No questions? We have a recommendation in front of us, moved by Councillor Daigle, seconded by Councillor Irwin. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Our next one is 8.2 zoning bylaw amendment application ZBA 14/2024 at 35582 Bullock Road, and it's Julian Earl Bullock. Good evening. I won't ask you after this if you have a.
Good evening, everybody.
Evening. Okay, Ashley.
Thank you. So the purpose of the zoning bylaw amendment application is to allow the existing on-farm secondary business to continue on a permanent basis, as it has been in operation with a temporary use bylaw since 2018. The business is comprised of an agricultural hauling business with accessory farm equipment servicing and fleet vehicle inspections and repairs. The zoning bylaw amendment pertains exclusively to the fleet associated with the hauling business and would enable the applicants to continue to conduct their necessary inspections and repairs to their trucking fleet and conduct on-site as an on-farm diversified use. The primary use of the land will continue to be for livestock and cash cropping, and the business is and will continue to be conducted within a portion of the existing agricultural building. The owners advise the outside storage associated with the business is limited in scale and screened from the surrounding roads. No concerns were noted from the circulated agencies and no comments were submitted by members of the public. Staff recognize that the subject lands are located in a prime agricultural area where agriculture and agriculture-related uses are permitted. On-farm secondary businesses are also permitted as an on-farm diversified use. And to establish an on-farm diversified use, the province requires that the business remains secondary to that of the principal agricultural use of the property, that it's limited in area and size, and that it is secondary in size to the residential unit, and also that it pertains directly to the farming operation and benefits from being in close proximity to said operation. So staff are satisfied that the proposed zoning bylaw amendment meets this criteria for the reasons mentioned, and they are further detailed in my report if you'd like to read the policy sections on that. And staff note that the North Middlesex official plan does specifically require that a site plan control application be submitted for an on-farm secondary business. So as such, we are recommending a hold provision be placed on the property in which the hold will be removed once that site plan agreement is executed. In an agricultural property, a site plan will formalize the details of the operation, but primarily is going to be to do with grading and drainage, as well as outdoor storage. So staff are of the opinion that the proposed zoning bylaw is appropriate, consistent with and conforms to the policies, and we are recommending that my report be received for information and that the bylaw be approved in open session.
Thanks, Ashley. Is there anything you'd like to add at this time?
Nothing at this time.
Oh, you're good. I have to ask, is there anything to public? Luke, anything you want to add at this time? Nothing? Well, I had to ask, it was your chance. Any questions from council on this? No questions? Moved by Deputy Mayor Hodgins, second by Councillor Nerda. All in favor? Carried.
Great.
Thank you. Thanks.
I've got.
Our next 8.3 is zoning bylaw amendment application ZBA 15/2024 at 12096 Gale Road. And Vicky was Kotu? What is it? That's not right, I'm sure. Is the agent here? Oh, okay, we're back on. Okay, so we're all set? You can hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Perfect.
All right, go ahead, Ashley.
Thank you, Your Honor. So the subject zoning bylaw amendment is, again, to implement conditions of consent. So these particular files are for consent B10/2024 and B11/2024, which were also conditionally approved on May 1st, 2024. And it's to sever a 1.3 acre lot and a 1.46 acre lot for rural residential purposes and to retain a 20.52 acre lot that is zoned and will continue to operate in the same manner as a restricted agricultural lot. Severed Lot 1 and 2 are proposed to be rezoned to residential hamlet with the implementation of a minimum lot area of the 1.34 acres and the 1.46 as proposed to ensure that the lots are not farther subdivided. The retained lot is proposed to be rezoned from restricted agricultural to a site-specific restricted agricultural, again, to implement a minimum lot area to ensure that the lot's not farther subdivided, also to recognize the approved lot frontage of the consent, and additionally to permit for a reduced interior side yard setback for their existing residential accessory structures. No concerns were noted by circulated agencies, and conditions of the consents will still remain in force and effect. No formal comments were submitted by the public prior to the submission of this report. And while staff note that the agent has confirmed that the intent for the subject lands is not to farther subdivide them, we are of the opinion that implementing a minimum lot area will ensure this, and it will ensure that they're not farther intensified. It will ensure logical and orderly development of the subject lands, land use compatibility with the neighboring properties, and it will maintain the intent of the applicable policies, which permits for minor rounding out of the settlement area. Staff also note that the minimum interior side yard setback for residential accessory structures on lots of record with the same A2 zoning permit a setback of 3 meters. However, accessory structures on the property are accessory to a residential use, and staff are of the opinion that the proposed setback of 3.8 meters is appropriate, even though the bylaw requires the 15 meters. Again, we're recommending that this be specific to residential accessory structures, so this wouldn't constitute agricultural accessory structures. We also are noting that this will help rectify an existing zoning deficiency on the property with setbacks. In conclusion, staff are of the opinion that the proposed amendment is appropriate, consistent with, and conforms to the applicable policies. And again, we're recommending that my report be received for information and that council considers passing a bylaw in open session.
Thank you, Ashley. At this time, applicant, have something you'd like to add?
Yes, good evening again, committee members and staff. Firstly, again, I would like to thank county staff for their work. Ashley did an excellent job preparing the staff report, which we have carefully reviewed, and we welcome the approval recommendation. And just to highlight, the subject lands were recently approved for a 2-lot severance. And then this ZBA application is basically to fulfill the condition of consent. As outlined in the staff report, the proposed ZBA application is consistent with the PPS, conforms with the County of Middlesex and North Middlesex official plan, and maintains the purpose and intent of the zoning bylaw. Respectfully, we request the council's approval. If you have any questions, I will be happy to answer them. Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, I would ask, is there any comment from public on this? Okay, council, any questions on this? No questions? We have a recommendation. What's the nod of the head mean? Is that the moved by Councilor Daigle, seconded by Councilor Keough. All in favor? Carried. Carried, thank you.
Thank you.
Our next 8.4 zoning bylaw amendment application ZBA 16/2024, 179 Mill Street, 2425031 Ontario, and Maria Van Gorp is evening. Okay, Ashley, whenever you're ready, if you can, one more.
Thank you. This is my last one. Just a second here. So the purpose of the zoning bylaw amendment is to rezone 179 Mill Street in Park Hill from the community use I2 zoning to a residential density R1 zone to conform to the underlying official plan designation, which is residential. The original zoning on the property, as indicated in ABCA's letter that was forwarded for council's consideration, was actually residential before it was converted to the ambulance bay, roughly in the 1970s, 1980s. The subject lands are approximately 0.4 acres in size, and surrounding uses are predominantly residential in nature, with the west and east properties being vacant and the municipal office located to the south. If you're looking at the screen there, the red hatched area is the regulated area by the Conservation Authority. The subject lands are currently containing a 1-story building that was previously used for ambulance services, and they are municipally serviced as well. Prior to the submission of this report, no circulated agencies submitted comments. However, the Conservation Authority has since submitted comments noting that the majority of the property is in a regulated area which forms part of the floodplain and valley system for the Cameron Gillis stream. This means that it is therefore considered hazardous in the hatched area. And Estable Bayfield notes that it should not be expected that any further fill on the property would be permitted, as was permitted to establish the original building there in the 70s. The Conservation Authority does not oppose the request to rezone the property, but it does advise the owner to ensure they're aware that redevelopment of the property for residential use will require their permission and will require the submission of significant supporting information such as geotechnical supports and detailed site servicing and grading plans. The Conservation Authority noted that the owner and their successors should expect that residential development will likely be quite limited and modest, and they should not expect that the Conservation Authority would support a proposal to sever in the future. As such, the Conservation Authority is supportive of the residential rezoning with the implementation of a hold provision to ensure that future owners are aware of the limitations on the property being required to meet the Conservation Authority satisfaction as well. No public comments were submitted on this report, and staff are of the opinion that the proposed zoning will bring the zoning into conformity with the underlying official plan designation and direction for the municipality. Staff have reviewed the location of the lands and the characteristics of the area and are of the opinion that the intent of the bylaw is maintained, as well as the official plan, and the existing ambulance structure on the property would become a legal non-conforming use. Conversion to a residential use would require the appropriate approvals from the building department and the Conservation Authority if required. That being said, we are currently unaware of any proposed development on the subject lands and note that the owner has stated that the requested amendment is to make the lands more marketable. Any future development or change of use on the property would require the appropriate approvals regardless. In conclusion, we are of the opinion that the bylaw is appropriate, consistent with the policies, and we are recommending my report be received for information and the bylaw approved in open session.
Thank you, Ashley. Is there anything at this time you'd like to add to this?
No.
Not at this time? There's no one from the public, so any questions here from council? Go ahead, Councilor.
My question is for the applicant. Since the ambulance has moved out of there, has the property been maintained according to our standards?
I have all seasons is lined up to take care of.
They haven't cut it yet, though, have they?
Well, I just come from Strathroy, so I haven't seen it, but
So,
I have them lined up.
so actually, can that be an ongoing, I would make a motion, if I may, Mayor Rob, that whenever we're dealing with these type of properties, that there be a condition applied to the consent that the property be maintained according to municipal standards. I would make that a motion.
You'd like that added to the conditions? Okay, thank you.
So
Any other-
through you, sorry, I'm not sure that we could add this as a condition to the zone. However, we can certainly put in a note with the bylaw enforcement officer and have him request it. Just being that this is a zone amendment, not a consent, we don't really have conditions to uphold.
Then my question would be, do I need to make a separate motion for that following this application?
Good question. I'll refer that to you, Alan.
Through your worship, it would be a complicated situation because you'd be asking with no context for the bylaw enforcement to follow the regulations and bylaws in place. So you could make a resolution, but it's just to follow the law.
I guess my concern is that when we deal with these properties, whether they've been abandoned or whether they're being severed or they're being sold off, that a condition of consent would be that the property is maintained according to municipal standards, because we have several of these properties that are being overgrown. And I don't feel that that is conducive to our standards, or that is fair to the neighboring people who live beside these properties.
Okay, thank you. We have something to add to that, and then I'll come to you, Bill.
I certainly understand where the counselor is coming from, and I think it's a great idea for future consent applications that we do that. However, in this case, we're not severing a piece of property. We're not dividing this property. It's an existing developed property. And so the normal property standards bylaw would apply. But for future severance applications, I would suggest to our planner that maybe be a standard condition that we add at the direction of this and the support of council.
Very well.
Councilor Irwin, you had your hand up?
My comment was the same as the CAO's. Do we need a motion later to add this to future consent items, or is it just a direction to the planner?
If I may, your worship, I'm seeing the planner's facial expression, and I know my own, so certainly be something I'd be looking for in a report. So I don't believe we need so.
I'm happy to include it going forward.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you. Any other questions on this zoning? Councillor Keel.
Mayor Rob, just one question more, just for interest sake. Does a commercial property follow tidy yard bylaw?
Through your worship, yes.
Thank you. Any other questions on this zoning application? Seeing none, we have a recommendation in front of you. What's your wish? Councillor Daigle. Deputy Mayor Hodgins, all in favor? Carried. Thank you. Thank you. Our next item, we have a delegation, but that's for 7:30 and it's 6:56. Well done, Ashley. Wow.
That was
So-
awesome.
So okay, so we're gonna go to department reports. We're gonna move on to item 10, department reports, and the first report is from the Director of Community Services, Brandon Drew, and that's Urena. Oh, no, sorry. Sorry, 10.2. My mistake. A report from the Manager of Public Works. Vance, you're going to do for the 24 gravel maintenance program update.
Thank you, your worship, members of council. Following a delegation that came to council in January and discussion also at budget time with respect to our gravel maintenance program. Council's wish was to have a report come back to council to provide a status or an update with respect to the gravel maintenance program. So before you tonight, I have a report for your information, and essentially in this report, I provide a backgrounder with respect to the delegation, some bullet points with respect to what they were concerned with at the time, which was cost and quantities, the budget for asphalt roads, a written procedure for prepared roads, to prepare roads for gravel maintenance, and the last time an engineer tested gravel before application, and so forth. So although I provided a verbal explanation for that at that time, I have here before you basically a summary of essentially the way our program went this year, which although there were a few little operational glitches during the program, I was quite pleased with the material that was applied, both with the we went with a granular M this year instead of a granular A, which is more conducive to the purposes of gravel roads in our municipality. And also the continuation of Pollard Industries that put down liquid calcium chloride on our roads. And so far they've held up, I feel, quite well. That being the case, most recently received some precipitation, so they're we're actively grading as we speak, or not as we speak, but this week. So anyways, I'm prepared to answer any questions with respect to the report as well. In the report, I also indicate some of our environmental conditions or weather conditions that we had this past winter, and some of the conditions that we had to grade in, and commented on some climate change. So again, this is for your information, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thanks, Vance. Questions from council on this? Councillor Keel.
Thank you, Mayor Rob. Vance, on your report here, you have a list of some of the equipment, of course, relative to our road program. Did we authorize during budget a hydrovac trailer? Or was that a wish list? I just actually had a resident or a ratepayer called today wanting a culvert cleaned out, and I thought I'll mention that tonight.
Through your worship, we definitely discussed it at budget, but it was an item that, if I'm correct in my recollection of that conversation, council wanted to wanted a report to come back to council with respect to how often we rent vac trucks and so forth. Council was interested in the trailer. They did not approve it for the 2024 capital budget, but it was sort of put on their radar for consideration for future considerations.
Cute.
Any other questions? No other questions on this? It's our last chance, isn't it, Vance?
Well, I must say, your worship, during the time we had this initial discussion and I said to council, concurred that I would bring back a report. I was determined to make sure this report came back to you. So that you'd have fair.
Councillor Irwin.
Thank you, worship. As it is our last chance. We've certainly heard a lot of feedback from the public prior to this effort put forward, and I'm wondering if we've had any feedback from the public recently around the work we've undertaken.
Through your worship, we've had I don't necessarily have those perhaps noted and so forth. However, we have had some people continue to do comment with the Public Works Department about they want the roads yet even smoother. But we're all about continuous improvement, so that will improve in the future. On the other hand, we have had some compliments with respect to our roads. Like I said, the calcium chloride effect on the roads this year, and given the amount of precipitation that we've had in the last 2 or 3 days, has just been unheard of. And that material and that compaction has held our roads together, especially on a lot of our hills. We did have some washouts that we have repaired, and all the roads are open, with the exception of Elm Tree, where Mystery Falls is. But it enabled us to quickly get our roads back into shape. So, but other than that, I haven't heard any other negative comments at the moment.
I have received a couple of positive comments on it, just so I wanted to add that in there. I've received. Councillor Knellison.
Thank you, Mayor Rob. Vance, I have a question for you. That is, once the new gravel's put on, it's graded in, and then the dust controls have been applied, can those roads be graded subsequent to that? And does dust control still be effective?
Through your worship, excellent question.
Thank you.
So what does happens at times is when we regrade roads and like potholes, if it rains and there's more potholes and we end up regrading the roads. And this will get back to Councillor Irwin's question as well. I did have an individual call me about that, because what ends up happening is when we regrade the roads, they can become dusty again. So now if there is enough calcium chloride in the road bed from previous years, and as we move forward, anytime it rains and any type of, like with precipitation and water, it'll reactivate that. So the dust suppression will kind of kick back in, for lack of better terms. However, and we ran into this last year, if you do grade the roads and they still are dusty, like a second application of calcium may be required, which is normal, and that's fine. If we have a really, really dry season, and then we end up having to grade dry roads, it becomes dusty again, not as bad as in the like early spring. However, last year we did apply to our busier roads. We did apply a second application of calcium, and then it bound quite nicely.
Thank you.
No worries.
Any other questions? We just need a motion to receive this report. Councillor Daigle, Councillor Keel, all in favor? Carried. Thank you, Vance. Our next, what time? 7:05. Okay, our next is 10.3, and that is a report from Director of Infrastructure and Operations, Jaden, and that's on the Park Hill Sewage Lagoon dredging.
Thank you, Your Worship. Before I get started with this report, I'd just like to take a moment just to acknowledge Vance. This is his last report to council. So as we all know, this This month is his last month with the municipality, so he's done an amazing job here, and I just want to acknowledge it around the horseshoe here and with council. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
May I just add also, your worship, I just wanted to thank Vance for all of his hard work. It's been an honor working with you over the last year.
Thank you.
Okay. So, through your worship, report number, sorry, I'm just
10.3.
report number 10.3, point 1, the Park Hill Sewage Lagoon dredging contract award. Through your worship, the clean out of the Park Hill Sewage Lagoon. This project was approved as a 2024 capital project with a budget of $4 million. A request for tenders was issued for this project on May 28th, 2024, and it closed on June 18th, 2024. A total of 3 bids were received from Entech Waste Management, Inc., GFL Environmental, Inc., and Wessex, Inc. Through the tendering process and feedback received from the bidders, we made a couple changes to the project. One being that the project was originally planned to be completed in 2024, but we extended the schedule to be completed over 2 years in 2024 and 2025. So it would be 1 lagoon cell first year, the second lagoon cell the second year. And we felt that this extension was more reasonable for the contractors and may have helped us secure some better pricing by reducing the contractor's schedule risk. And secondly, our Public Works Division has been working for the past several weeks on improving the access roads within the site of the lagoon to ensure that the contractor can efficiently maneuver their operations. So the 2024 work is planned to commence in early to mid-August and be completed by the end of September. The recommended motion is that council receives the support for information, that council enters into a contract with GFL Environmental, Inc. for the Park Hill Sewage Lagoon dredging project at a cost of $1,961,635.67, excluding HST, and that council enter into a contract with RV Anderson Associates Limited for site inspection and contract administration services for the Park Hill Sewage Lagoon dredging project at a cost of $145,807.80, excluding HST.
Questions from council? Councilor Daigle.
Just for my own clarification, the amount that we're seeing in these bids, that's for both years of the work?
Through your worship, that's correct. That's for the total works for cleaning out both lagoon cells.
Councilor Canellison.
Thank you. Councilor Daigle asked one of my questions, so I won't ask that one again. Thank you. My question for you, Jaden, is where is this material being disposed of? Have they made arrangements because time is short? Do they know where the stuff is going?
Through your worship, the contractor GFL Environmental, Inc. is required to secure those lands for applying the material. Typically, it would be land applied to fields, and they work in consultation with farmers, and they have to do the appropriate documentation through OMAFRA. So I don't have the exact information of where that's going currently. We haven't seen those plans from the contractor yet, but it will be land applied, and they're looking for local locations.
So the potential for some delays and so that they can obtain a disposal site is possible.
Through the mayor, we did engage GFL very early on when we got the prices in. So they have been working on that. They have not identified that as a potential risk to a delayed project.
One final question, and this came in significantly under the proposed budget. Is there a reason for that, an explanation for why it's so low?
Through the mayor, our cost estimate was based on other lagoon dredging projects, namely in some neighboring municipalities where they've cleaned out lagoons. We do feel that we got very competitive pricing here. Other projects have got fewer bids and much higher per unit prices. So I think by just having a clear scope of work, and we did engage the bidders through a site meeting and answered questions. I think we just got really good prices for a clear scope of work and good project.
and well organized. Thank you.
Counselor Irwin.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you, just one question. What is the contingency amount set aside for this project?
I'm just gonna look that up. It might just be a sec.
Okay, yep. Any other questions? I will say it's nice to see a couple of these tenders come in below what we're expecting, because since COVID, we've all been, it's nice to have some oxygen in the room after you open up the tenders, because it's been pretty rough for everyone on these tenders since COVID. So, Jaden, do you have that, Jaden?
Yeah, I'm gonna have that
Go
as
ahead.
soon as this document opens. So through you, the contingency amount was $100,000.
Okay, Counselor Irwin?
Yes, Your Worship, that's not quite 5%, correct? Around 5%, I think. Yeah.
Okay. Deputy Mayor Hodgins, you have a question?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Mayor Rob. Just a question. I did speak to Jaden about this ahead of time. I would like to see this process someday. I don't know whether there was any other interest by any other counselors. I would to just kind of go in and see how this process actually takes place. I don't know whether we go on our own or go as a group or just, just see if there's any other interest to see how it's done. Okay, there's one more.
Okay, Jaden?
Through you, Your Worship. Certainly something we can look at arranging. Once we know when the contractor's starting, they have a firm start date, and once things are underway, we can reach out to them and talk about having a site visit to see what that work looks like. To answer or to follow up on Councillor Irwin's question about the contingency value of $100,000, it may seem low relative to the total contract price, but I think we're comfortable with what we have because it is a unit price contract and we're paying based on the quantity of material that's coming out of the lagoon. So I think we were conservative enough with that number, making sure we have a large number there. And then we are only going to be paying based on actual material that's removed. So we're comfortable with that contingency value, and it's fairly straightforward.
Okay, any other questions? No other questions at this time. We have a recommendation in front of you, and that is to approve the bid for the lagoons. Moved by Councillor Nerda. Seconded by Councillor Daigle. It was in Park Hill, that's why I said it. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Quarter after. All right, our next one is the Queen Street Water Main Phase 1 Contract Award. Jaden.
Thank you, and through Your Worship, this is for the Queen Street Water Main Phase 1 project, which includes a new water main construction from the new water tower site down to Elscraig Main Street. A request for tenders was issued for this project on June 21st, 2024 and closed on July 10th, 2024. We had a good turnout on the bids and received a total of 7 bids from contractors. For this project, Burnham Excavating Limited was the low bidder with a total price of $2,544,518.91. This project was designed by SEMA Plus Engineering. They were awarded the engineering contract back in 2021. And we are also recommending continuing this project forward with SEMA Plus with the site inspection and contract administration services. And the price they've provided for that is $265,639, excluding HST. So this project, the work is planned to commence as soon as possible following this contract award, recommended award to Burnham. So once this is approved by council, we'll be reaching out to set up that pre-construction meeting and get things going. Get some construction notices out to the public and get moving forward. We also included within this project a rehabilitation of the existing pavement while we're doing the water main from like all the way up to the water tower, because that asset was starting to deteriorate more rapidly and it is due for replacement. So the recommendation here is that council receives a report for information, that council enter into a contract with Burnham Excavating Limited for the Queen Street Water Main Phase 1 project at a total cost of $2,544,518.91, excluding HST. And that council entered into a contract with SEMA Plus Engineering for site inspection and contract administration services for the Queen Street Water Main Phase 1 project at a cost of $265,639.00, excluding HST.
Questions from council? Councilor Irwin.
Thank you, Worship. I have two questions through you. First one is the same as previously. What is the contingency amount set aside for this project? I only asked that question because we finished some major project recently where the contingency amounts weren't high enough. So I just wanted to, but I'm sure they are now. And the second one is in terms of repaving, and I think we've all talked about this previously, are we looking at potentially a walking path from the village to the water tower as part of the repaving project?
Great, thank you for those questions. Through your worship, I believe the contingency was $250,000 on this project, which represents approximately 10%, which is pretty standard for these types of projects. To answer the second question, the project does not currently include a walking path, but this would be certainly something that we could look at, especially with the good pricing that we have received from Burnham. We do have some funds left over there within budget for this project. So it's something that we can work with SEMA Plus on to find out what the cost estimate would be, what that would look like. And we can bring that back to council for a decision.
Thank you. A follow-up to that, Jaden. There can't be much engineering to putting a path beside the road, is there? I mean, that can't be a high cost.
Through you, no, it shouldn't be. They're safety considerations, but these things have standards. This is it is a rural cross section. There's no curbs, so it won't have that physical protection. So, we have to look at this and through that lens, but no, it's very straightforward, right? It's an excavation of the topsoil material, a granular base and paving, and it has to drain properly. So
I do have another question. That is at the main street. We're hooking up to the main street line. Did you say it's going across Main Street on this phase 1 as well? We're crossing Main Street?
yeah, through you, that's correct. It does go across and prepares for the next phase of the project.
All right, thank you. Any other questions here? Councilor Keo.
Thank you, Mayor Rob. Jaden, I just have one question and it does relate back to the last large project we had on Main Street here, Park Hill. SEMA, Site Inspection and Contract Administration. Have they had work experience with Burnham Excavating in the past?
Through the mayor, yes, they have. I believe within their tender letter, which should be attached, they had noted they had worked with Burnham and they noted positive experience and that they're a capable contractor.
Just like to ensure a seamless transaction on this, unlike the last one.
Noted.
Any other questions? Councilor Canelson.
Thank you. When would phase 2 take place to the new development?
Through the mayor, we are looking at bringing that forward next year for construction and working on the design this year.
Okay, thank you. Who's going to do the design?
So it hasn't been determined yet.
Good, thank you.
Okay, any other questions? We have a recommendation in front of us. Councilor Keo, Councilor Irwin. All in favor? Carried. Yes. Stop for a 10-minute break?
Yes.
Okay. All right, need a motion to take a 10-minute break until Councilor Daigle, Councilor Nerda, all in favor. And then we'll come back at 7:30 and we will have delegations